Hi guys, welcome back to the Overwater Interviews series. Today I'm here in York on the Gabrielle tour, but we're going to sit down with Sandy Beales. Sandy is the bass player and musical director with artists like One Direction, JP Cooper, Scouting for Girls, Wheatus, and that's just getting started. Sandy has some brilliant advice on how to nail auditions, getting into being a musical director, the kind of gear you're going to need to play on the biggest stages in the world, and of course why he chooses to play overwater basses. Enjoy! What's going on?
Quite a few different things, jumping around. Much more MD work these days. So working for artists and bands and everything, but definitely still getting to play as well. Just wrapped the UK tour with JP Cooper, and I jump on for those shows as well. So just played to the Palladium, which is just, it was one of those, you know this feeling, that one of those like special gigs where everything just comes together and all the hard work, all the stuff that goes into it pays off and more. And of course, my trusty J5 with me, as always.
Yeah, the Palladium's one of those rooms, isn't it? It's so steep up in front of you, and and you've heard about it for so many years as well, I guess.
Yeah, exactly. You can feel the history, can't you? I find that in every time I go into Rack Studios, I always find that I get that feeling of like you can just feel, and obviously Abbey Road and those, that you can just feel that kind of, I don't know, that energy and what's been made in the rooms and what's been created there, and yeah, you get a sense of that for sure.
Yeah, very cool, man. That's it's interesting you saying you're doing a lot of MDing now. Is that something you kind of fell into naturally, or was there a conscious choice as you were getting older, as you were getting established as a bass player, you wanted to diversify what you were doing and it not just to be about gigs?
Yeah, 100%. You said it all there. Absolutely. I just basically spent my entire 20s touring. Spent my entire 20s on the road, out of the country, doing gigs, and I love it. I'll never stop playing. I'll never stop performing. Again, you know this feeling. I know that you know all these things, but that feeling of being on stage, it never gets old. Like there might be some nights when you're not quite as on it as other nights in the sense of how you're feeling, but it will never get old. That feeling of stepping out, especially like the start of a new tour, the start of a new campaign, that first time stepping out is just amazing, getting that kind of buzz again and getting that feel back. So yeah, that will always be there, but very much now making the conscious decision to do things more London based and do things more UK based and be able to do things in this country and then still get to play live, and finding that magical balance is, as you know, being a father as well, it's an impossible job of finding that full balance and being able to do everything. But yeah, it will, like, live music will always be my first love for sure.
Yeah. How was the learning curve with that? I mean, I've spent a lot of time over the years with Jesse Grant, who I know you know really well, and the amount that goes into MDing a big show now with the programming and all the playback. We had a load of things this weekend with kind of time code issues and stuff. What was the learning curve like that for you, starting to get that together?
Absolutely huge. I had worked with so many MDs and been in the room with so many MDs and never even came close to appreciating what they do. And not necessarily even the things in the room, the things that happen before the room, things that happen after the room, staying late, making sure things are done, all that stuff that I never saw before. And then now I fully appreciate it. Like anything in life, until you experience it, you don't fully appreciate it. And then you do it, you're like, oh, wow, there is so much that goes into this. And I've got endless amounts of respect for all the MDs I've ever worked for, because now I see the process. I wish I could go back and be like, in the room, just say like thanks, like, because I know what you're doing right now. But yeah, it's a real learning curve, and especially with all those new things coming up, like you say, things like time code, having to do all that stuff, there's a lot that goes into it. But yeah, again, it's a very rewarding and amazing job, and for me, getting to work with young musicians as well is absolutely huge. I used to teach at a university, and a lot of the old students that I used to teach, I'm now in a position to be able to put them on gigs, which is absolutely amazing. The ones that were always really hardworking, always really good, always really wanted it. Now it's just the case of picking up the phone and going, hey, I've got the gig for you now. It's time to go. And Yeah, one of those recently, Connor Hopkins. He's done stadium tours around the world supporting Ed Sheeran. He's done loads of different things, and he works with an amazing artist of ours, Dylan. So he kind of has experienced all of that, and it's just sort of things that now we can pass on. And especially, I speak for both of us, and with no disrespect, but we are not the youngest guys in the world. We're not the youngest guys in the UK.
Crazy now.
We look it still, but yeah. So it's that thing of that new generation. I think it's for us. It's kind of there's a bit of a duty there to kind of pass these things down and hopefully tell people things that we never knew and we kind of wish. Oh, I wish someone had given me a heads up about that or whatever it might be. But kind of nurturing this new generation, really.
That's a lovely thing for someone to hear if they're studying, at one of those colleges right now. Like, you really can make impressions on your fellow students, but also your lecturers, and the relationships you're building right now can really help you out down the line. Don't wait until you graduate to start thinking about how you're going to make a living.
Yeah, and I think it's a great lesson for any young player of you just never know who's in the room. And even if they're doing absolutely nothing right now, who knows what they'll be doing in 2 years, 5 years, 10 years, always just turning up and doing it, because you never know. And not that you should do it for that reason. You should do it because you want to be the best you can be. But there's that added side. The B side of that is you don't know who's in that room. Because, mate, again, you know what it's like. You'll get that phone call from someone that you haven't spoke to in so long, and you'll see the name come up and you'll be like, well, it's obviously something, because we don't hang, we don't speak. Like, I wonder what this is. And then there's that magical thing in music where as long as you're on someone's radar to some extent, there might be that call, there might be that email at some point randomly, and you're just like, okay, cool, let's reconnect. And then it maybe becomes a work thing or whatever.
Can you tell us a little bit about Kaizen? Because I think that's probably an area of the industry that is quite mysterious to a lot of people. Like, who fixes these shows? How do they come around? Who decides why that drummer is playing that gig? Or
yeah, I mean, as far as the musical direction goes, and with all of those things, we just try and put on the people who are obviously best for the gig. So I feel like back when we were, I guess, getting into the industry, I feel like auditions were much more of a thing. Whereas I feel like it's much more of a rarity now. I feel it's much more common for people to be recommended and however it may be, and from that side. And obviously that did exist back then, but I feel like I went to so many auditions, and I know so many people that went to so many auditions, and I don't hear about as many these days as there used to be. And I guess possibly, I might be wrong in this, but I think possibly our social media is almost our audition now, and is almost our kind of initial, hey, here I am. Obviously the dangers with that being that as we all know, some people can edit videos or whatever it might be, and obviously we always pick the best take. I'm not saying I'm perfect with it. I'm going to lay down a few takes. I'm going to do a video for something. I'm obviously going to cherry pick the best take. I'm not crazy and just going to go, oh yeah, take one, I have to be 100% authentic. Like, I rate anyone who can do that, but that's not me. I'm going to pick the one that I like the best and I feel like I'm the best in. So yeah, so in the sense of that, definitely very much putting bands together and making sure the right people in the room. And then, yeah, the musical direction side of things. So making sure the live tracking is all together. Obviously the band are sounding amazing and enhancing the artist and honoring their music. And that's kind of a huge part of it, really. One
Direction. How old were you when you first got the call to be involved in that? And talk us through the process.
Finally, on the case of auditions, that kind of leads on quite nicely to your question there. So I was 24. I'd come out of uni at 21. I'm even before that, like all the regular sort of stuff that I'm sure you hear from loads of people, function bands, working for as many artists as possible. And I spent that time from about 20 to 24 saying yes to everything and just taking all opportunities. Anything that was thrown my way, it would be yes, no matter what it was, no matter the caliber of the artist, no matter what. I just felt everything was a learning curve, and I just wanted to be that sponge and absorb it all. And I think this is where we learn so much in these kind of small, tiny venues where there's 3 or 4 other people in the crowd and there's no one else there. I feel like we learn so much there, and we can kind of grow. And then when we get to do the bigger things, we've kind of had all that track record of like, I've worked my way up here. So I kind of come across some of the issues that I might face. And then when, like, maybe sound issues or whatever it might be, then when you do face them on the big stage, you're not phased because you faced them a million times before and it's all good. So that was kind of the development stage for me, 20 to 24, doing everything I possibly could, and then going to lots of auditions, being absolutely terrible, sometimes being all right, sometimes feeling like, oh, I might have got that one, but then not getting the call. And then kind of all that opportunity and hard work meeting at a point, which for me was the One Direction auditions. It was an open call at the time, so I literally went out to everyone, which again isn't so much of a common thing, but open call, blanket call, and then saw it. I don't believe it said who it was for. It might have, it might not have. I can't remember that bit. But anyway, so the first round of auditions, it was all pretty full on. Like, I think because there was a lot of buzz around them at the time. They just come off the X Factor. There was a lot of talk, a lot of hype. And I think the first round, we just played one song, possibly, maybe two songs. That kind of thing of you just go in, you play the song, next person comes in. And I'd just sort of used the ethos I'd taken up until that point. I prepped that song 1 billion times. I played it just to click with literally nothing but me and a metronome. Do I know the changes? Do I know the structure? And I think anyone go for an audition or anyone going in for the first time, it's really important to not rely on these cues, like vocals. Vocals may not be there in the audition. Vocals may not be there in the rehearsal. They might just be playing to the music. And it's the best way of knowing if someone knows the structure. If you can just jump in, all right, verse 2, let's go. And you're in, you're in. But if you're like, oh, that vocal cue that leads into verse 2, where it might trip you up. So I'd say prep in that sense, and prep in the sense of if you know something big's coming up or whatever it might be, just make sure you know the songs like back to front, inside out. So yeah, it comes to that. And then we got the second round of audition calls after that. So we came back for another day. And at this point, there was only 5 of us, two guitarists, 2 bassists, and 1 drummer. The drummer already had the gig. The keys player already had the gig. They knew those 2 were set. So it was down to 2 of us for those final 2 positions. It was literally like the heat is on. And yeah, by the end of the day, we were all in the room together and they said, congratulations, you are the new band for One Direction. And even at that point, it was, the boys still weren't this huge global megastars. They were really big in the UK and they were getting a really good following. But then obviously the year after that, everything just went absolutely insane. And all aboard the rocket ship, it became this huge global thing. And we were all on that crazy ride together. So that's kind of how it all happened, really.
Right. And how long did that last? How long was the run?
We toured pretty much solidly for 4.5 years.
Wow.
So from that moment on, and then till the end of 2015.
Yeah, and playing every stadium, what's the biggest crowd you played to over that time?
I don't know. I'm just looking. I've got this little thing. I've got this thing on the wall which has got all the shows on it. It's got these coins. Sorry, I'm aware this isn't very useful because it's a visual thing, but I feel like I can see, I think maybe 80 to 90,000 sort of stage, maybe a little bit over that. I can't see all of them, but big ones. I think South America was some of the bigger ones. But yeah, incredible getting to do Wembley Stadium, Madison Square Garden, all those iconic, legendary venues was a dream come true.
And that was actually with the bass over your shoulder there. That was around the time you got your first Overwater, wasn't it?
Yeah, so actually I got this one, the black and red one you can see behind me, finished, definitely not available as a standard. That one, a teacher at my old uni, a lecturer at my old uni, he had that. It used to be a natural color, and he was selling it. Mark Elvin, who you may know, an amazing kind of West End player, and it's a session player. He's amazing. He was selling it, and I'd heard a lot about Overwaters, and I was like, I need a 5-string. Sort of seemed like the perfect time, and until I played this white one here, I can honestly, hand on heart, say that is the best bass I've ever played before that point that I got this one. So it's just incredible. And I think for me, and I'm sure again you'll find the same, when you get the front of house comments and you get the Mons comments of, oh, that bass sounds really good. That's when you know. And these people that have done decades of touring and all these kinds of things sort of make a point to say that one sounds really good. And it happens all the time with this white one. People, and I'm sure the same with yours. They're very similar, aren't they? Like people coming all the time and saying that bass just sounds so good, and it's lovely. It's lovely to have that. And that's the thing, like I talk to, again, musicians in the room and everything about that a lot. Like context is key. You can get the best sound of just you. It can be like the most slamming bass sound. You're like, oh my God, this is perfect for everything. This is incredible. And then in the mix, tonally, maybe the way it interacts with the kick drum, maybe whatever it might be, something about it doesn't cut as well. And just to your point, exactly, sometimes it might be that frequency that you don't necessarily love in your own ears by yourself that actually makes it cut live. So having the frequency sweep and being able to boost and cut specific mid frequencies, I feel like is huge for the live performance. So in that Johnny's preamp I've got, well, to be fair, in both of them, it's got that sweep control of being able to boost and cut certain mids, and that's huge, isn't it? Sometimes the front of house or someone might ask for that, so it's important. But again, another front of house comment that comes across a lot is the warmth of these basses, but also being able to cut, which I think is sometimes it's that trade, isn't it? If they have to have one or the other, but with these, you get both. You get the warmth and it cuts the mix.
Yeah, 100%.
Actually, the funny story, I'll keep it relatively brief because I could talk about this forever, but the funny story behind that one is I actually took the red and black one up to Chris and the guys and Martin, everyone up in Overwater. And I basically said, I absolutely love this bass. I can't play it anywhere because it's not serious. I couldn't just turn up to a serious gig with a guitar that's inspired by like the muscle cars in America of the two-tone thing and the red and black and all, like, it's not going to happen. Like I'm not going to be taken seriously. I'm not going to feel serious, more importantly. So I don't want to respray it because it means a lot to me, the sentimental value, but I sort of want to clone this. Can we make this again, essentially? And you know what? I was a bit worried about it, and I was like, is it going to be the same? Is it going to feel the same? And then they made me this one, and it's even better. They did everything that I wanted them to do. They cloned it. They made it the same, but it's even better. Just absolutely amazing. Again, same configuration. Johnny's preamp, Bartolini pickups. I've got to shout out Phil Mulford on those. Just Phil, the man. We talked extensively about it, and we've always kind of had that conversation of how he got his tone and how he got everything. And yeah, unashamedly, absolutely ripped him off. He knew I was doing it beforehand, but it's the classic, isn't it? The Overwater, John East and the Bartolinis, just incredible.
So what's coming up? You just did the JP Cooper tour.
Yeah, loads more in the UK. Loads more artists we're working with and putting things together. And yeah, it's a busy old end to the year. So it sort of never stops. And I guess the lovely thing about the MD side of things is you can jump a lot between different artists and you can work with a lot of different artists in a week. Whereas if you were learning the set list, the full songs, playing for every artist's IMD, that's going to end up totaling about 300-400 songs to learn. So that would be a little bit crazy. So it's lovely with the MD side of things. A different kind of prep involved in that, less than learning of the songs, which is a kind of a different headspace. I find when I'm learning songs, I'm not one of those people that can just hear it once and then you've got it. For me, I have to absorb, I have to prep, I have to listen, I have to understand the structure. I definitely envy people that have got that super quick retention and they don't need to listen to it again. Whereas for me, repetition is key. I'll listen to it wherever I am, out for a run, in the car, whatever it might be. I'll have songs on, just kind of subconsciously absorbing. I'd say that's a huge thing as well. Any bass players looking to learn a lot of material in a short amount of time, the subconscious learning I feel like is absolutely huge, and absorbing things just by listening and structural things that you don't always think about, but even small things like counting bars. Like, oh yeah, this section's got 16 bars, and then you might hear it, you're like, actually there's an extra bar that I've just been playing and relying on. But when I break it down, I can actually realize that and I can figure it out. Whereas when I'm playing, I'm just there, I'm just in it. So yeah, subconscious listening, I think, is absolutely huge.
And that was going to be my last question, actually, was for bass players coming into the room and you're MDing, what are you looking for? So, but I guess it's those things. It's that, have they prepped? Can they play? If I asked them to play that song on their own right now with no click track, do it. Do they know how many bars it is before the vocal comes in, and what happens before the chorus? Is there an extra bar? All those kinds of little things.
100%.
And yeah. What about things like, I mean, we're talking about overwaters, so in terms of bass tone, are there any big no-nos? Is there a kind of a big win? Someone turns an 8-string bass, are they in trouble?
Yeah, I mean, it would be a vibe. It'd be a vibe turning up with an 8-string, but I'm not against anything. It sounds good.
I did an audition for a pop rock gig when I was about 19 on a 6-string Yamaha TRB.
Brilliant. Brilliant. No, love it. Love it. Love it. So good. So good. Getting up to the high C. Love it.
Oh, yeah. You're going to need that, right?
Amazing. Amazing. No, I think tone and sound and feel, that those have got to be the things, obviously like keeping time as well, but like tone and sound and feel and how they work with the drummer, and are they listening? Are they just head down playing their part? Or are they actually listening to what's happening around them and reacting? I think these days as well, a huge thing from a bass point of view is the way records are produced and the sounds on records, and can we reproduce or at least get really close to those sounds on the record? We're hearing less and less and less and less of quote unquote normal bass on records. A lot more synths, a lot more subs, a lot more of those sort of things. So finding the effects, finding whatever you use to replicate these things and be quick with it. If we need to make changes in rehearsals, going up and down a few dBs, or changing the sound, being able to flip it quickly. Oh no, that's a bit more subby on there, a bit more of a kind of saw wave on that kind of oscillator, whatever it might be. Being able to do these things quickly is quite key now, and just knowing your pedal, no matter what it is you use, Helix, QC, no matter what board you use. Maybe you're still on, like, again, normal pedals, which is becoming less and less common these days. Whatever board you're on, like, can you get those sounds quite quickly? And again, these synth-based sounds, just, it's important to be able to do them. I think, do you use the Deep Impact? What do you use, the C4?
Yeah, the Future Impact. Yeah,
Future Impact. Yeah, it's great. And again, like, those are amazing, aren't they? Like, they're so good. And I think it's the same with the C4, just highly programmable to be able to get those synth tones. If you're not playing synth bass as well, obviously a lot of the time people are now as well, but yeah, getting all those tones out of it. And again, there's loads of videos online to talk through, and loads of user forums where some incredible bass players have put their sounds up as well as a kind of starting point to get you started. So get into your synth tones, people, but also get into your synth bass playing, because again, there's some gigs where you got to be on it. So yeah, any young musicians, like any young bass players starting out, get on your synth.
100%. Well, and I will put a link in the video to, we've just done an interview with Trevor Barry from Strictly Come Dancing, who has just commissioned he's just received a new Overwater Progress bass, which has the Roland MIDI synth stuff all built into it, with the pickup built in and controls on the bass to control it.
Oh, damn. Amazing.
Really cool. So he's going to be using that. He said that there's a couple of Whitney tracks on the new season of Strictly, which he's using that on, and he's also using it as like a sine wave underneath the orchestra sometimes as well.
Damn. Amazing.
So you can do it all on the bass now.
There you go. There you go. Less gear.
Yeah, super cool. Mate, thanks so much for today. That's amazing. Really nice to catch up with you.
Yeah, you too, man. Absolute pleasure as always.